Hello, Squawk's here with my next instructional video on the Ka-50 Black Shark attack helicopter. Now, a couple of years ago I did 3 videos on this wonderful Russian attack platform, and thank you for those who've bared with me throughout the process and to those who've called for more videos. We're back, we're in the new Black Shark 3, and this tutorial is really designed to give you a quick way of starting up the Black Shark and getting it in the air so you can get familiar with it. I have read the manual and been through the longer-winded process of starting the Ka-50 up, where it tests the systems and so on, but that's not what we're going to do today. This is really designed to get you in the air with not too much fuss and enjoying flying this wonderful machine. So let's jump into the cockpit. Now you'll see on the right hand panel here there's lots of switches. I do love these Russian platforms. They've got so many switches that we'll get to know throughout the process of this tutorial. The first thing we want to do is we want to enable the batteries of the aircraft. So let's enable batteries 1 and 2. Flip these covers up, 1 and 2. Then we want to enable the intercom system. Now this is a good time to arm or equip the Black Shark before we start turning any other systems on or even aligning the INU, which we have to do now. So the way we do that is we turn this knob here to the ground crew position. We press the radio button on our cyclic, press F8, F1, and here comes the rearmament menu. You can see here the munitions I've got selected. You can select your livery this way. There's lots of different ones. Here we go, loadouts you can select, and also say your paint scheme, your fuel quantity, the amount of gun ammo, and your flares. Once you've done that, hit OK, and the ground crew will come to your aid and arm the aircraft. Once that's done, I advise you to go back to this knob here and turn it back to VHF2, ready for when we need that radio. Okay, next we want to enable the ECRAN system. And the ECRAN system is very much a diagnostic and warning system of the aircraft. It communicates to you 2 ways. One, through this little panel here. It'll tell you some warnings up there. And the other way is through a voice of Betty. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn this on to this button here, right at the back here. You'll see this ECRAN button. We're going to turn that to, or switch, turn it to operational. If we head up on this panel, we'll see that there's a button here that says, well, it actually says Batty. I don't know if that's a joke, but it's meant to be Betty, I think. Betty voice test. We're going to hit that and you can hear the audio announcement, which means the warning system's communicating through our headset. Over here you see this caution light flashing. We're going to cancel that down. Throughout this process there's going to be a few warning and caution lights come up. Don't worry about them, we can clear them out. It's just as systems come online, it detects things like low RPMs and so on. Now we've enabled the ECRAN system, we need to go to the fire extinguisher system, which is over here, and enable that by turning it to operational mode. And we also want to turn on the fuel quantity switch here. That'll help us a bit later on. And I would say the anti-collision beacon. We want to let everyone around us know that we are starting the engines up. So once you turn that on, you'll look outside, you can see there's a little beacon there rotating. So that lets everyone outside know we're about to start the helicopter. So next we want to close the cockpit door. And we want to fire up the APU. Now most of you probably know what this is. The auxiliary power unit is used as a precursor to firing up engines 1 and 2, or the left and right engines. And we need to enable that. That will provide a starter system for those engines and also some electrical power to the aircraft. And to do that, we head to the right hand panel here. We turn on or open up the APU fuel shutoff valve. We turn on the forward and aft fuel booster pumps. Over this side, we go to the engine selector switch. Make sure that's in the middle, which it is. You can see there, it's in the middle, selecting the APU. And then we hit start. Now several things are going to happen now. If we look over here, we'll see the APU valve is open, the APU oil pressure is normal, and this should come on. The APU is now on, temperature of just over about 650 degrees there. So the APU is now ready to fire up both left and right engines. It's a good time to turn off the rotor brake because we don't want that on when we start turning the blades. So next we're going to fire up the left-hand engine. The Black Shark has two engines. So starting with the left, we want to open up the left fuel shutoff valve. We want to turn on the electrical engine governor of the left engine, which is this switch here. Turn to the left again, and we're going to go to the engine select switch. Turn that to the left-hand engine. We're going to hit start. And then just down here, we're going to open up the engine cutoff valve on the left engine. As we do that, we will notice on the right side of the cockpit, here the RPM of the engine is starting to spool up. We'll also see the engine exhaust temperature increasing. If you look up here, we start to see the blades turning. Okay, now while that's warming up, what we're looking for here is for this needle here to stabilise just over 70%. It's about 73% before we start the right-hand engine. So we're just going to keep an eye on that now. You'll also note on the left-hand side of the cockpit, the rotor RPM, which is indicated by this dial here, the percentage is increasing, 10% there. Okay, that's spooling up. If at any time you get lost in the process, sometimes it's good to look at this panel here. These lights are a good indicator of telling you where we're at in the process. We can see that we've got the left-hand valve is open, that one's closed, and we've got our fuel tank, our pumps on the forward and aft. Okay, we can see here that the RPM is stabilised about 73% there. And what we need to do now is we need to repeat the process with the right-hand engine. So what we want to do is we go over here again, open up the fuel shutoff valve for the right engine. We can now close these covers. And we're going to enable the electrical engine governor on the right-hand side. That one there, we can close that cover. We're going to go to the engine select switch, turn it to the right hand side, hit start, and again we're going to open up the fuel cutoff valve for the right engine this time. And very much like the left engine, engine number 2 here, the right engine is going to spool up, and we're hoping that it'll level off at the same position as engine 1. So that's going to take a little bit of time. So we'll just wait for that to happen. Once that's stabilised, we will turn off the APU. So we'll give it just a moment. Again, as I say, do not worry about these warning signs coming up here, or these warning notifications. They will clear. So where are we? It's coming up to 60%. Almost there. Okay. Right, we can see both engines have stabilised at about 73%. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn off the APU. We no longer need it. So to do that, we go over here. And we put this switch in the middle, turn off the APU by hitting the APU shutoff switch, and then just to make sure we haven't got any fuel coming through, we turn off the fuel shutoff valve, or close it there. Okay, so the engines are spooled up, but what we need to do now is we need to bring the throttle up to the automatic position. So on the left hand side, I've got this bound to an axis. These levers here are the throttles for the left and right engines. So I'm going to pull my axis lever back and bring it up to this point here, which is the automatic setting. There is a keybind for this that you hit twice to bring it to that setting, but we need to make sure it's here. We don't want to go further like this. That's really for emergencies and testing systems. We want it right at the automatic setting. So when we pull this collective, this will move relative and keep that position relative to the collective. So we don't get any overspeed or over throttle when we're using the collective. Okay. Right, now that's up, we need to enable the electrical systems of the aircraft. We're still running on the battery, so what we need to do is we need to flick these two switches, the left and right system generators. We can turn that on. Now we've powered the electrical system, we can turn on the radios, which are all these switches here. We can turn on the ejection system, also the weapon systems. We can power the IFF and also the nav. That'll give us a warning, don't worry about that. This will change when we align the INU shortly. Okay. We can also head above to this panel up here and turn on the dust filter. It's a good idea to turn the dust filter on when you're on the ground. Stops dust coming into the engine, obviously, and particularly in like a desert type map, it's good to have that on. But be warned, it does lower the RPM slightly of your engines, so when you're in the air you can flip this up. Likewise, if it's cold or icy, you can flip it up to anti-ice. You can do the same with the rotor, and also you can turn these pitot heats on and ram air on if required. But it looks like it's warm enough outside. Okay, now we've done that, we're going to turn on the ABRIS, the computer. Remember, there's two systems in the Ka-50 we used for navigating, really. In addition to the dials, we use the ABRIS, which is a satellite navigational system, or the PVI 800, which is aligned, the INU aligns, and this uses gyroscopes and accelerometers to plot your position basically relative to a fixed point on the map. We'll go through that in a second. We need to turn on the K41 target navigation and targeting computer, so we're going to turn that on. Now it's going to take 3 minutes for that to boot up and for us to get some markings on the HUD. While we wait for that, it's a good time to explain the INU alignment. You'll remember from a previous video I said we were very fortunate in that the Ka-50 came aligned once we started up. Well, no longer. The Black Shark 3 means we have to now align it, and there's 3 ways to do this. We can align it with 3 different degrees of accuracy. The first one, which I suggest is the easiest to go through, is the accelerated process, which takes about 3 minutes to align the INU. Then there's the normal INU alignment, which takes about 15 minutes, and the precision alignment, which takes 20 minutes. And I think we'll save it for another video talking about what degrees or the errors you can expect from the different types of alignment. But in this process, we're going to use the 3-minute alignment. And the way we do that, which is the accelerated alignment, is we go down here to the PVI 800. We turn this knob to operational. There we go. We then look at the rear panel to our right. We turn on the INU and the INU heat. Then also, for good measure, we will turn on the standby attitude indicator, which is there. Now this process is going to take about 3 minutes to align, and what we're waiting for, you'll see here, this NKB-YB. This means the aircraft's not aligned yet, but once this disappears, that's going to disappear after about 3 minutes, we know the aircraft is suitably aligned for us to carry on. Now, we have to align the aircraft because if you go down here, you won't be able to activate any of this autopilot system without the INU aligned. So we need to wait for that. And we can use this time productively. So what we can do while we're waiting, we can go to the back of the aircraft and we can look at this panel here. So this is the laser warning system. And this will detect lasers or incoming missiles, etc. And we can turn that on with this switch. We can also turn on the UV26 countermeasure dispenser here. And over here on the top right panel is our countermeasure selection switches. And what we can do here, we can set the number, the sequences and so on, and we can again dissect that in another video if you like, but for now just know that you can mess around with that while we're waiting for the INU to align. We can also use this time to set our nav lights. So let's do nav lights 100%. Let's also turn on some lights here. We've got some blade tip lights, we'll have those on. I'll turn on the formation lights. Let's light us up like a Christmas tree. Okay, so we're still waiting. Right, once that turns off, we'll go back to the PVI 800. We're almost there, you'll be pleased to know. We can also use this time to switch our ABRIS to the map, so we can hit nav and map, and then we can scale plus to zoom in on us. Okay, it won't be long. Now, if we were to align this with the normal way, the long, which requires a much longer wait, the 15 minutes, we'd follow a very similar process in that we would switch this knob to operational, we would press the INU norm button, then we would turn these two switches on, the INU and the INU heat, and we would turn on the power to the standby attitude indicator, and we'd wait the full 15 minutes before this button would start flashing again, and we'd click that once it starts flashing again, and we are aligned in the normal mode. And it's the same for the precision mode as well. Okay, look, this has disappeared. Excellent, that means our INU is aligned. We can expect a lower degree of accuracy with this type of alignment, but if you're not relying too much on the PVI 800, don't worry about it. And we're pretty much there. There's a couple of things we can do. What we have to do though is sort this PVI 800 out. To do that, we need to turn the data link on, which is this switch here. These knobs here refer to our position as part of a group. So our ID number in that group will be 1 because it's just us, and will be the commander. So we also can switch on the autopilot modes. So autopilot that will hold the pitch of the aircraft, the bank and the heading. And remember this system I mentioned in a previous video about the trimmer. Well, this will allow us to point the black shark at a destination, trim, and this computer will hold those values for us, which is great. We can set our altitude hold, method of altitude hold, to barometric reading or via the radar. So I'm going to do radar, use that for when I want to hold the altitude, and direct heading is already selected. That's our method of traversing across the map. We'll be doing it via direct heading. The other way to do is via track. Next, we can go to the rear of this panel and we can turn on our coloured signal flares. If we ever need those, you can hit those buttons. Okay, last but not least, we go over to the standby attitude indicator. We're going to uncage it by putting the mouse over it, rolling the mouse back and then forward again, and align along the artificial horizon. And there we have it. The Ka-50 is ready to be taxied off to the runway and taken off. I hope this tutorial has helped you get this bird into the air. It's really quite straightforward. There are a few more things you can do in the process, like you can test some systems with these sort of buttons. Over here you can test the readings of the EGT, the exhaust gas temperatures and so on. But really, that's the quickest way, or a very quick way to get the bird into the air and you flying it. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. It's good to be back, and I hope to bring you more of these videos in the future, particularly obviously on the Ka-50, and then perhaps moving on to other platforms. Anyway, hope to catch you perhaps in multiplayer soon, but until then, happy flying and see you soon.